This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
So glad you're hanging out with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so nice to be back doing the podcast, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like therapy for us.
Yeah. Without all the costs.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. You know what I want to talk about today, Josh, is the concept of loss. Because loss comes in a variety of forms, and you've experienced a lot. I was thinking about this. You've gone through an awful lot since we moved last August, and just want to get your take on it, and maybe you can talk about how you processed or how you didn't process, or in different areas.
Okay.
Last week we talked about D&D and about how D&D really helped you kind of feel better about being here.
Yeah.
Helped you with depression.
Yeah.
Helped you just with some anxiety.
Yeah.
It's really good for you because otherwise you're kind of isolated.
Yeah.
Because even here at home, we have to get you out of your room all the time. Like, that's your inclination, right? Is to just stay in your room by yourself.
Yeah.
So D&D does an awful lot. It's not just a game. And what we're dealing with, this virus that's everybody's kind of homebound right now because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the opportunity to go in D&D right now.
Not in person, no.
So you can do it online?
Yes.
Do you do that a lot?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a game tonight.
Okay.
I have a game Sunday and Monday.
Wow. Does it help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's better to have it in person, because then you can actually physically roll the dice and everything instead of having a computer generate a number.
Right.
So it's just more based on you than it is on the computer.
Right. So a lot of society is just kind of stuck inside.
Yeah.
Nations are stuck inside right now.
Yeah, and it actually shows up on the websites I go to play D&D, because there are a whole heck of a lot of more players online.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because they can't do it in person.
Right. So D&D has really helped you. We talked about this last week on the podcast, that was really the key component to you actually starting to feel okay.
Yeah.
Right, after we moved. But you moved away from friends.
Yeah.
And you moved away from a D&D group that you really meshed with extremely well.
Yeah, and everybody but one was autistic.
Which is, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was a form of loss, and I want to know how you dealt with that, like leading up to it, and I know that leading up to the move, you kind of disappeared.
Yeah. Wait, I did?
Yes, like you kind of would shut down. That was it. You just, but you still went to D&D, because now I know, after this last, conversation we had, that the D&D is what really helps you to feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the way around.
Yeah.
So what was that like, leaving those friends in that group of D&D players?
It was... Well, let me put it in perspective a little bit.
Okay.
Whenever we were getting ready to move from Florida, I was in the position of I could not move forward in my life the way that it was. And there was no real opportunities for me to move forward in my life in Florida. So I was pretty much stagnating while still playing D&D and stuff like that. Yeah, but I needed a change. And
to point out what's happened. I think this is what you're talking about. Like, you've applied for a library job
Yeah.
since we've lived here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is shut down.
Yeah.
So you might have a job when everything, comes
Yeah.
back to life, or,
Yeah.
we don't know about that yet. But is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So you're talking about wanting to have a job.
Yeah.
And
Not just having a job, but just moving forward in my life, so that I can no, I know a perfect quote that Mr. Barnt used to say,
okay.
be a productive member of society.
Right. And we're going to get to Mr. Barnt pretty soon. He was your a mentor
Yeah.
for a number of years. Wonderful man.
Yeah. A full decade at least.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A great guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember you saying this before, that you just kind of felt like you couldn't really go anywhere. And, it's interesting because you and I have talked about this before, about how we've had different takes on moving from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the hard part was moving away from Nana and Pappy and Dr. Ogilvy.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, they're my mom and dad. And
Yeah.
after that, then she's just, for me personally, became a wonderful friend.
Yeah.
And it really helped to guide you and got you in social situations and interactions, and
Yeah.
got you help working with younger kids, and
Yeah.
it was a really positive experience. So it's hard to leave the area because of that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, for me, I was elated to leave Florida.
Yeah, you were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just wasn't my place.
Yeah.
Just didn't
Well,
feel
there wasn't anything really for you to do there.
right, because comedy clubs are so far away. It took me so long to get to them.
Yeah.
I had a Reiki practice before we moved there.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, Reiki is just a energy work, energy healing modality. So before we left Pennsylvania, I had a thriving practice. And in Florida, they say that unless you're a massage therapist, you cannot
Practice
Reiki for profit. And because, I don't know, somehow or another, the massage boards thought that energy work is the same as massage.
Who knows?
Anyway, I don't know why. I don't get it. But yeah, there were just things that didn't work there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm, was happy to be leaving. Were you happy to be leaving? Or was it a hard thing for you? Or was it the leading up to it that was the hardest?
I wouldn't say that it was the leading up to it so much as the choosing between leaving my friends and my game,
Mm-hmm.
and moving forward with my life. I keep saying that, and I really do mean it, because I felt like I was stuck in a rut.
Mm-hmm.
That I could not overcome what was happening. I couldn't pass it by.
Has that gotten any better?
It has.
How?
It feels like a weight has been lifted, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know that I can move forward.
That's what I'm saying about Florida. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm so happy that people love Florida. I'm so happy that they are successful in...
You're so happy you don't have to live there anymore.
Yes. Yes, because for me, what you just described is how it felt the whole time. It's like trying to work through something that feels like you got a weight that you're pulling just to accomplish anything. That's how it felt for me there. And
Isn't historically Florida like the place you go to die or something?
No, I mean
and then on top of that, there's all of these stories about Florida Man.
Yeah, well, I've seen some of those in person, living down there. Yes, yes.
To be fair, in
But
D&D, they officially made a archetype called Florida Man.
that's hysterical. Um, yes, I think that it's a one. The beaches are beautiful. This is just a gorgeous place, and man, it for me personally, it just felt so heavy that just it got like sort of suffocating. It was stifling,
Yeah,
right? So
and that had nothing to do with the heat.
right. So anyway, it was a good move for me. It sounds like it's a good move for you, but this is why I'm asking you about this. How did you feel about, I mean, because that's a loss, right?
Yeah,
That's what we're talking
yeah,
about today. So leaving your friends,
yeah,
leaving that group,
yeah.
and then coming here, but it sounds like you're saying that this move, you feel like you're beginning to lighten up.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not trying to make light of it at all either. It was seriously a huge decision
Right.
because and a very difficult one at that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have such great friends down there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I had to make the choice between staying with my friends and trying to move forward with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult decision.
Mm-hmm. And it is one that we talked about that too, because, we've discussed before that living alone and on your own is something that's still very daunting and overwhelming for you.
Absolutely.
And although we get on each other's nerves on a regular basis,
Yeah.
you have expressed before that your dad and I are who you want to live with. It's just what you know. You
Yeah.
feel safe. You feel secure.
Yeah.
And, so that was a tough... So your dad got the job, taking you away from what you knew and your friends, and that was a very difficult decision for us as well.
Yeah.
So what happened is you came in up here and you found a group of friends, and which is pretty awesome, because what seems to me is that if you hear about autism, and if you did I mess things up? Is
No,
it still
you're good,
recording?
you're good.
Everybody, I just dropped the equipment on the floor. So it's interesting if you hear about autism and you read about it, and it talks about this lack of social interaction, and this ability, like this lack of reading social cues and what have you, and just those things are correct. But I'll just say that people on the spectrum really have a connection. I've seen it with you, and I've seen it in the others down in Florida in those social groups that you would participate in.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So that social interaction does matter, and
Yeah.
it does make a difference, and it does fill a human up. No matter what, a human being. It's like that connection, that
Oh, okay.
those conversations, that experience. I really think that regardless of what a diagnosis is, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So I was concerned about you losing that. So I'm glad that you found your gang up here already.
Yeah.
When we left Nana and Pappy.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that?
Trying to ignore it, I guess.
Yeah.
I haven't really. I've tried not to think about it too much.
Right. Well, what happened?
I miss them.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do about it, you know?
Right. Well, we are trying to get Nana and Pappy up here, and they
Out
are
of the death trap called Florida.
they're I seriously, I am not trying to badmouth Florida. I am not. This is just it was my experience, and it was your experience, but other people love it. That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, so yeah, so one of the things that happened that was pretty traumatic, which has contributed to us not being on the podcast until now,
Mm-hmm.
is that when we moved away, the podcasts weren't happening on a regular basis because we were so busy getting ready to prepare to move.
Yes.
Okay. So then when we moved, right after that, I flew down back to Florida because Nana had a knee replacement surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So she had the knee replacement surgery, and when she was in the recovery room, she died.
She got better.
She made it through. She died.
Yeah.
They brought her back, but it was extremely scary.
Yeah.
Pappy and I were in the hospital room. I mean, yeah, they were supposed to be moving her up to a floor
Mm-hmm.
after her surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And they had sent us up there saying, we don't know why it's taken so long, but go on up and we'll send her up. Well, then I went down. We went up there, and we were waiting in the room, and I said, Pappy, something's not right. I just doesn't feel right. Something's not right.
Right.
So I went back down, and I personally didn't hear it. Pappy heard them call a code blue. When they they announce that in the hospital, and that means that people rush into a particular patient because it's not good.
Right.
He heard that, and that made him nervous.
Mm.
I was down there talking to people already. I had so we were separated. He heard this. He's freaking out. I've already down on the floor where the recovery, trying to get some information. Nobody really knew anything. I finally talked to a doctor, and he said, we don't know what happened. She was fine, and then she wasn't responding, and we could not get her to, there wasn't a heartbeat, there wasn't, and so they brought her back. What happened was, Josh, is that Nana has some kidney issues,
Mm-hmm.
and some liver issues, and so they gave her the medication to help her to be okay with the knee replacement. Well, because her body doesn't process and filter the way that somebody else's does,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of built up and built up and built up instead of being flushed through,
Mm-hmm.
and it caused her just what they call crash.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So then she stopped breathing, and then they brought her back. Then she had to go into ICU. Wasn't communicating whatsoever, except for crazy stuff. That, like, early the next day, she started talking, but it didn't make any sense.
Did she say your butt was the biggest butt she'd ever seen?
No, that's your area of expertise. Do you remember? You don't even remember that because you were loopy.
I was loopy. I vaguely remember it, but
first. No, not first grade. You're probably
No, I was in 4th grade.
4th grade. Yeah.
I had just come out of surgery, and I was still loopy from all the medicine and everything like that.
Yeah, told me I had the biggest butt. Yep. I was like, what? But she was doing some things that looked like, I don't know, just later on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next day. She was doing some things with her hands that didn't make sense. Almost like if somebody's hallucinating.
Oh, okay.
It can't.
Like she was reaching for a toothbrush to brush her
just
teeth and
in the thin air, like she was doing. I can't really explain it. Plus, she was. Then once she started, she was intubated. So.
She was what?
Intubated, which means she has a tube down her throat,
and
is helping her to breathe.
Okay.
While she was in the ICU.
Mm-hmm.
And they put that into her as soon as, that code blue was called. That's what they did.
Okay.
So then she went to ICU for a few days, and then she was put into a regular hospital room where she had to stay for quite a while, and then she was sent home, but she was not doing well. And then it was discovered that she had something called C. diff, which is an intestinal infection that can also be deadly.
Yeah. Doesn't she have that now again?
She still has it, yes.
Oh, she still has it?
Yes. I don't think she ever got rid of it, but she just had a test done. And she still has it.
Wow.
And so there might be some kind of procedure coming up that really kind of helps her to finally get over that. But all of that information was passed on to you during the whole process. And I wasn't here with you. I was down in Florida with Nana and Pappy, and you were up here. And I talked to you as often as I could and let you know that she's okay and all, but that was a difficult time for you to go through. Just leaving them and then being... Not that you would go to the hospital anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to do that,
yeah.
right?
Right.
It's not okay.
Because I want to remember people... Like, if someone's going to go, I don't want to remember them on their deathbed. I want to remember them full of life and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's very difficult for me to see someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. I think there's a lot
and
of...
that might be a bit selfish of me, but...
Well, there's more to it than that, isn't it? Because I've seen you get very emotionally upset when people that you love are
in pain.
in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I want to help them, but I don't know how.
Does that feel like anxiety?
Somewhat. It's similar, but it's different. Like, it's similar because it shows up similarly. Like, just feeling antsy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But also... like the being pulled in two different directions at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to help, but I don't know how to.
Mm-hmm. There's been, because we're talking about loss, that whole scenario that I just described, and the reason that I described it all, is because there was a huge concern that we were going to lose Nana during all of that.
Yeah.
And that fear of losing somebody that you love like that affects all of us, and it hurts, and it's shocking, and it, I mean, to go in for a knee replacement and then have that happen was shocking. And
do you remember what I said before Nana went in?
No.
I had said that this surgery feels different than normal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And because usually I'm very confident that things are going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're witness to that.
Sure, right.
This one just felt a little bit different to me.
Yeah. And you know what? Nana said that too.
Yeah?
Yeah. Nana said that she didn't really feel, this one felt different.
Yeah.
Right. Because she has had 3 back surgeries, and, Nana's a 4'11" sassy pants.
Oh my gosh. And that's putting it mildly.
Right. So she's got this personality in these.
She doesn't take crap from anybody.
That's true. And so to see her the way that we saw her at Christmas when she was here.
Yeah.
That was difficult for you. Because very weak, lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And she's not...
She couldn't go up the stairs.
Right.
RJ and I had to carry her up in her wheelchair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that was hard for you to see her not as sassy.
Yeah. Well, she was still very sassy. But to not to see her not be able to do as much as she normally could
Yeah.
was very difficult.
Yeah. And those changes sometimes are just part of life and can be part of aging, but in this particular case, it's because of all that she's gone through physically.
Yeah.
And it was just you know, we want Nana back, you know, feeling well and healthy, and you know, so it's just hard to see that. Another type of loss that you've experienced most recently is that we've had RJ on the podcast with us before, and RJ, Josh's sister, we've always called her Bug from the time she was tiny. So RJ and Bug have been married for a couple of years, and they recently got separated.
Yeah.
And in that separation, we live in Newport News, Virginia now. And RJ got a job up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, where he's now working in Maryland.
So he left.
Yeah.
So they separated, and it's amicable.
Yeah, yeah.
They're both really great people, and it's like things happen sometimes. They realize that they are really good friends, not so good as a couple.
Right.
And so it is, as far as, I mean, if a relationship can end, the two of them have done a wonderful job of being kind and
understanding to each other.
right, and considerate.
Yeah.
And thoughtful. So that's a good thing. But the reason I bring this up is because RJ is your best friend. So,
what?
So,
You're waiting like I should say something.
well, because you looked really sad, and I was just, I don't know, it made me sad. See that you're so sad, but even though I'm asking you the questions. Yes, he's your best friend. So I'm just wondering how you're doing, because this is still fairly fresh. This is
right.
You would see him a lot. You would talk to him a lot. You spoke the same language.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really different not having him here and everything. And with that loss, I guess, I've also been seeing the kids a lot more because of it. Their kids. And that's stressful in and of itself. But there's just...
Right, because when Bug is at work, we have the kids.
Yes.
Yes.
And...
I don't know what happened the other day. Bug and I we were all in the living room, and Madison was just losing her mind, like she was bonkers. I can't even remember what it was about, but I said something to her, no effect. Bug said something to her, no effect. You said something to her. She turned around, stopped crying, stopped being so upset, took a hug from you, and was fine. And Bug and I looked at each other like, what just happened? How did you do that? That was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So they are around you more, and they see that, you know, Uncle Josh is pretty cool.
Yeah. Most of the time they see that.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they don't listen. But
well, you got to think about this too. As hard as
they're not getting out as much as they should because of this stuff.
This virus.
Yeah.
Right. They're not able to go to the park, and you know, the equipment's closed, and then around here they just closed parks, and right. But Josh, their dad just is left. You know, I mean, they're experiencing that too, so they are acting up. So when you say they're not listening, there is a lot of that, and it makes sense. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, especially Maddie. She's a daddy's girl, and it's been really hard on her.
Yeah.
So we'll just continue to help support all of them in whatever way we can, and
Another case of loss moving forward is that Mr. Barnt, my mentor for well over a decade, his wife passed away.
Yeah.
Just recently. And
yeah, her name was Brenda Barnt. A lot of us called her Madame Barnt.
She was the French teacher at high school.
At high school, the French teacher, and was also a cheerleading coach.
Yeah.
Very, very nice lady.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And she had cancer for how long? At least 32 years?
32 years.
Oh my
gosh.
And
it kept, and she passed away at 64. So her cancer had gone into remission, and she also was in a bunch of different trials that really did help a lot, helped her to be able to stay here.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mr. Barnt was your mentor, but they have a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked with him on that farm, and you would do the hay. And during the day, you would go to their house for lunch.
Yeah.
And Madame Barnt would make lunch for you and Mr. Barnt and whoever else was helping out that day.
Well, let me clarify that.
Okay.
She would get out all this stuff for lunch, and then we'd make our own sandwiches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she would actually make her own jam or jelly or whatever you want to call it out of fresh strawberries that she had grown, that she and Mr. Barton had grown. And to this day, I have not tasted a single jelly or jam or anything else like that has tasted quite as good.
Right, you try.
Yeah.
You try. You find a new brand, and you buy it, and you bring it home, and
it just pales in comparison.
Yeah, every time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that back then it was just, you learned so many things, just like when you're out working in the field and you're getting all hot and stinky and sweaty and everything. How I told you, look, when you go to lunch at their inside, you have to take a fresh shirt with you.
Yeah.
When you go to work in the morning, put on that fresh shirt before you go to their table.
Yeah.
And it's anything from that, as far as manners go, to just the big lessons of life.
Yeah.
How you treat people, and and so it was. Dad and I are both very grateful for Mr. Barnt for teaching you what he has, and
he's the one who would who both out of necessity and out of just I don't even know what the word is, but he would have me face my fears. My fear of spiders, my fear of snakes, my fear of heights, and just all that stuff. I'd have to deal with it, because I mean, working in a hay mow, which can be upwards of 20 layers high of bales of hay, and being up top there, and of the hay just being piled up and piled up and piled up. You can't be afraid of heights up there.
Right.
You can't be stricken with fear because of it. You have to have a healthy respect for it, but you have to work. So I had to deal with it. And he helped me work through it.
Right. And I would say in a way that nobody else could.
Yeah.
And at a time in your life that you were really ready to work through that. the fear. Just, you know.
I still don't think I would have been ready had it not been for him.
I agree. Yep, I agree. And he would tell you what time he was going to pick you up, and you would have to get up early.
Yeah.
And you would get in the truck, and you would sometimes go to different barns around the tri-states.
Within 250 miles, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Deliver the hay.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wonderful experience for you.
Yeah.
And when Mr. Barnt called you, or you called Mr. Barnt, when Madam Barnt had passed, that was a very difficult day for you.
I have never heard Mr. Barnt like that before.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm starting to cry now because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. Barnt started out as somebody that gave you a shot at work. You know, everybody thought, I mean, it was a time in your life where you needed to get out and get dirty, you know, and be responsible and productive.
Yeah.
He started out as a gentleman that gave you an opportunity. He became your mentor.
Yeah.
And then he became your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've talked to him a couple of times, and, you know, you haven't been up there, you haven't seen him in, you know,
5 years.
5 years. But you're still just as close.
Yeah.
And I know that he appreciates your conversations, and being able to talk about Madam Barnt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every other year, I think it was, she would actually go over to France with her French students.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd go see all the sights in Paris and just have a great time over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a chance to do that.
Right.
But that's just one of the really cool things about her, that she would set this up so that these kids could go and visit France.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bug had her for French. Did you have her?
Yeah.
Yeah? She was your French teacher also?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then your cousin Lindsay was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
So she was her coach.
Yeah.
So she's been kind of intertwined for many, many years like that.
Yeah.
And so...
And Mr. Barnt and she would, every summer, they'd all go over to England, and or not every summer, but they'd go over and see musicals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They'd take the tunnel into France, and they saw Phantom of the Opera in the original theater.
Wow.
Yes. And then they saw the
Wow.
sequel to it as well.
Mm.
It was just, he has so many cool stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they had a great life together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They did. And you saw that up close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how are you doing now with her passing?
It's hard to believe that she's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, she reminded me, like, of her personality. She would always remind me of someone who's somewhat soft-spoken, but had a spine of steel.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do her justice, but using words.
Yeah. Yeah. She was a cool lady. And how did you work through this, Josh? How did you you didn't really express yourself very much during that time. This was recent.
Yeah.
You didn't express yourself very much, and you stayed in bed.
Yeah.
For a few days in a row.
Yeah.
And is there anything that I don't even know. I don't even know. I just know that you just kind of, you shut down.
Mm-hmm.
You got very, very depressed.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I try to get you to talk about what you feel in your body, what you're thinking about, what you're experiencing. And I think that it was pretty evident that you were just overwhelmed with grief.
Yeah.
So that you didn't really eat much. You slept most of the time.
Yeah.
And when we would talk to you, you weren't really there. How did you turn that around? By talking to Mr. Bart?
Some.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you don't ever get over something like this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I've heard it said that time may not dull the pain, but it does make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, but it's just not enough. Those words aren't enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and in your case, it was at a time she became a part of your life at a time where you were in high school and you were just moving through one of the roughest periods of time because, boy, middle school is just awful for anybody and it smells bad.
Yeah.
Not
to mention the kids.
Well, it's who I am talking about.
Oh, okay.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was a big part of your life, and to help you become, she was there, part of that, where you became, went from a kid to a man, and so, are you doing okay now?
I'm doing better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's just, it happened. I have to, well, I get that, and I don't know the words.
Well, I remember when Grandpa passed, how it was that while he was so sick, you were really not functioning, and then when he passed, you're like, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
And he's okay now.
Yeah.
Is there any aspect of that where, you feel like, because you're very concrete in your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if something is he okay? Is he not okay? And
with cases like this, where you don't know it's coming.
Yeah.
It is relief, but because they're no longer in pain or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's just like, wait, what? Really?
Right.
So it's just shocking.
Right. Right. Are you feeling better?
A little bit.
Yeah. Because everything else that we've talked about, the move away from your friends, away from Nana and Pappy, Dr. Ogilvy, the awesome gang that you had with D&D, then moving here, you're talking about this opportunity, maybe to get a job at a library, which is your dream.
Yeah.
You found a new group of friends.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, and seeing you, knowing you, watching you do what you're doing, I would say that it's kind of her passing through you for a loop more than the other things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because even Nana being sick like she was, you weren't there dealing with it. You were up here, and
that had nothing to do with it, though. With Nana, I knew that she would be okay.
Okay.
It was just a gut feeling, really, which is like anathema to autism, but but it's just one of those things where I have to believe that they'll be okay. And in this case, it was a shock because I didn't even know to expect it.
Right. It was a shock for everybody. So we're going to need to finish up now. Okay. But I'd like to know, is there anything that anything that helped or would help for you personally that then might be able to translate to others on the spectrum, possibly? Yep. Is there anything that would help you in this kind of situation, in a circumstance when caregivers or loved ones see the people they care about that are on the spectrum going through things that hurt, dealing with loss, and which is difficult for everybody, but those on the spectrum, if they're dealing with that, is there anything that you can share that might help?
There's two parts of what I could say.
Okay.
One part is that if you know that something is coming, that like a death is going to come up, like due to cancer or something like that. For me, like with Grandpa, I mourned the pain. I mourned him for the pain that he was in, and I was so happy when he was no longer in pain. With Mrs. Barnett, she seemed fine, and then she was gone.
Right.
So it's a shock, but it's I accept that she's gone. I'm not happy about it. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it, but at the same time, I am.
Right.
Because she's not in pain anymore, like I said.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah.
So what did you need when you were going through this? Was it a good thing that we left you alone and let you sleep? Was it a good thing that we kept, that we checked on you often?
Yes.
That we tried to make things easy for you, and that...
Yes.
That...
And only for a couple of days, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That really... It gave me time to mourn. And it really helped me come out the other end okay.
And so was it a good thing that we said to you, okay, we're going to go, we could go to the store then.
Yeah.
Was that a good thing? Was that helpful? Because I remember asking you, are you up for this? You go, I don't know. And I said, well, let's try. We'll get up, get dressed, let's go to the store. If you need to leave, we can leave. Just to get you out.
I would say not for the first day or two.
Sure, I think that was like the third day.
Yeah. Yeah, and even then I wasn't really feeling up to it.
Right.
I mean, I'd say I don't know, but I really didn't want to.
I know, but you did, and
Yeah.
and then when you came back in, you kind of went back to your room, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
it was
did
a
it.
gradual process.
right.
Yeah. And I appreciate that.
Well, it's just a hard. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about loss. All the things we've talked about have been kind of difficult in their own way, right?
Yeah. I remember that with Grandpa, I had just gotten a cell phone. And Grandpa had just gotten a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember calling him from the school because I was so distraught about him not being okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just able to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a school day and everything, I was able to talk to him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped so much having people understand that I needed to do this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Right.
I guess my thing to do is, or I guess my suggestion is give the person space,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time ask them if they need help. Not constantly, but just
Right.
let them know that you're there for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then.
And then back off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. It's good advice. That's really good advice, Josh.
Mm.
All right. Well, you look kind of tired, so I think we should wrap it up. What do you think?
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing everything you did. This is a tough subject today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can tell that you're kind of wiped out from it. So, great job. Great job. Everybody, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us today. Like we said last week, we're so grateful to be back with you, spending time, and it's just wonderful to be able to connect with you. And you can listen to us
YouTube?
It's YouTube, it's iTunes, Spotify, it's
A whole bunch of things.
a whole bunch of them. If you go to my website, it's sonyaking.com. You can find it there. There's also every week we do a podcast. I do a blog that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can find that there.
Yeah, with artwork done by RJ.
Yes, RJ is still doing our artwork, so he's so good at that.
Yeah.
Yes, and send us any messages you'd like. We love getting those.
Yeah.
We got some of those comments up on the website, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. So everybody, I hope everybody's being safe out there and surviving being stuck inside with one another. It's different, right? Feels
No.
very strange. Feels very strange. Well, not you being stuck inside. That's stuck would not be the word that you would choose. Yeah, the rest of us. Yeah, right. So anyway, everybody, so grateful for you, and we will talk to you next week. Love you.
Bye.